Oh, okay, we should be live. Let's see here. Uh, Looks like it. Please let me know how the sound is in the chat. Please hit the like button. It really helps fuel the algorithm. Comment anything in the chat below. Literally, you can comment anything in quotes, and it will help boost this in the algorithm, which I would really appreciate. You can also, if you're watching this not live, you can comment any questions that you have in the comments down below, and I usually try and answer them during my AMAs. If you, no matter which video you post them on, I read through them. Much better about it, and I try and answer questions that people ask in the comments of any video that I post during these about once a month AMA videos that I do, where it's just kind of relaxed. And Yeah, it's this is an open discussion. If you are watching this live, please comment in the live chat. Let me know how the sound is. Please hit the like button. Also, please let me know any questions that you have or any topics you would like to discuss during tonight's stream. So, looking forward to it as always, and definitely, is going to be just more of a laid back stream. I like that about the AMAs. They sometimes they get going, and what I do like is sometimes the chat gets lately has been really the live chat has been really engaged, which I love. But I know that I'm not the best at checking the live chat all the time, so this is one of those chats where I'm really paying attention to the live chat because you guys are kind of guiding where this goes. But like I said, please hit the like button and let me know what you guys would like to discuss. As far as general announcements, next week is going to be the Thanksgiving. So the Thanksgiving, uh, and because of that, the live stream will be moved to Wednesday night, I think. So just be on the lookout for it then. And uh, you know, I'm not exactly sure what that stream will be on. I have a few different options, but it should be a good one. Also, big announcement. I've been speaking on here and mentioned that I was going to make a video about the development of language um, after my daughter said her name for the first time, or she asked me a question. And I have realized that she asks me questions all the time, but they're not verbal. They're like, she'll hold up like a red crayon and be like, and then she'll hold up a yellow crayon, and then she'll hold up a green crayon, and I tell her red, green, yellow, and so that's her way of asking. But uh, she did say her name. Big announcement. She said her name for the first time. She turned 2 years old on Monday. My wife's birthday was Tuesday. So my daughter was born. No, my wife's birthday was Monday. My daughter's birthday was Tuesday. Sorry. And so my daughter said her name 2 days before her second birthday, which was this past Tuesday. 222. What are the odds of that? But uh, I'm not going to unpack what that means. I have no idea, but I did notice it, and it's it was quite the event. I have video of it. I'm going to share in a minute, but um, so but yeah, if you I don't know if you're not familiar with if you haven't been watching this channel, then you probably have never heard the birth story of my daughter. But my wife always said don't that she did not want to have um, a baby on her birthday because she didn't want to share her birthday, which is funny because men are like, that'd be cool to have a kid on my birthday, but because we don't care about our birthdays, we that just makes it cooler for us. But for women, like they want their birthday to be about them. So I never really understood it until I got married, and then I kind of as I understood women better, I got it. They want their birthday to be about them. So she always said, I don't want my birthday, a kid born on my birthday. Not that you have that much control over it, but she just said that she wouldn't prefer that. And so my daughter, on my wife's birthday 2 years ago, 2 years and 4 days ago. Um, we were watching a show, and it was, um, or we were sitting on the couch, and it was Friday night, and it was Shabbat, so we don't go out. We stay in. We get off social media, and we stay home. And so even though it was her birthday, we weren't going out because of Shabbat. So we were going to go out the next night. That's what I'm getting at here. And so at 11:59, we stood up from the couch to go to sleep. It was exactly 11:59, and at midnight, literally as she's standing up from the couch to go to sleep, her water broke. And so her water broke on her birthday, basically at 11:59, and um, on the dot. And then um, we've got bags packed. It's a week early than we were expecting, but it's my first time having a kid, so I don't really know what I'm doing. She doesn't really know what she's doing, but we've read the books and talked to people, and so we had bags packed. We had a plan, and luckily we had packed the bags over a week early. And as we're getting ready to leave, my wife goes, she's literally like crouched over having contractions. Our daughter was born 2 hours and 42 minutes after my wife's water broke. So it was very quick labor. And so she's having contractions. And then she goes, I know this sounds crazy, but I just can't leave here with the sink looking like that, because we had dishes in the sink, and I hadn't done dishes yet, because I do them before we go to sleep, and her water broke. So I'm sitting there frantically doing the dishes faster than I've ever done dishes in my life. And then we get in the car and drive, and I think that this is going to be like the beginning of Men in Black, where he has to like deliver the baby in the car, and Will Smith has to deliver the baby in the car, and he's like, Tommy Lee Jones is like, or Will Smith's like, I don't know what I'm doing. And Tommy Lee Jones is like, it's easy. You just catch. I don't know how easy it would be. It's not that easy, I will say. Not always. And not for us. But we got to the hospital. It was only like 15, 20 minutes away, probably 15 minutes away. And, but now it's been almost an hour, because I did dishes. We had to grab everything. We had to go down 2 flights of stairs, get my wife, who's going into labor in the car. And then we get to the hospital, and it's been almost an hour, and they don't want to let you into the hospital if you're the man, unless like your wife is actually in labor. So they want to check before they let you in. They want to check on her first. Just out of security reasons. Their birthing wards are very high security, actually, or at least the one we went to was. I think most of them are, because people steal babies apparently. And so, as we're walking in there, the nurse looks at my wife, and she's like, "Is she leaking?" And I'm like, "Yeah, her water broke. She's in labor." And which they didn't believe me, because a lot of people have false alarms apparently, and they were like, "Okay, she's in labor. Come inside." And about an hour and a half later, less than 2 hours later, my daughter was born. And then almost 2 years later, 2 days less than 2 years later, she said her name for the first time. And this is a video. Here. Juliana. Juliana. Yes, good job. That's your name, Juliana. 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 Yes, good job. That's your name, Juliana. Cute. Eric Weinstein said once in an interview with, I think it was with Kurt Mongol, and he said, "Your children are simultaneously the the most fascinating thing in the world to you. They are the most fascinating thing in the world to you. Yet when you try and talk about your kids to other people, their eyes will just glaze over, and that is so true almost all the time. I'm not going to say it's all the time. Maybe you find it interesting, like the things that I share, but parenthood is amazing. I encourage everybody to who is married to try and be a parent, but it's definitely the most amazing ride of my life for sure. And it's but it is shocking to you when you first have a baby, that when you everybody's like, oh, can I see pictures? And then you show them pictures and they're like, oh, it's so cute. But then anytime you bring it up after that, you can tell that they do not care at all, unless they themselves they're your friend and they also have kids. Then they get it. But if they don't have kids, they do not care. And it's the weirdest thing. It really weirds you out when you first have a kid, because your whole world has changed, and this is like the most monumental moment of your entire life, and this person is your friend, and you would think that, and you've seen them take an interest in your life in way less interesting ways, or take an interest in way less interesting events in your life, but not this one. And but it is an amazing thing, and if you're a parent, then you definitely get it. And maybe some of you will also find some things interesting. But I mean, the thing about it is that you see all these little tiny moments of growth, of firsts, constant firsts. First step, time standing up, first time going up a stair, first time coming down the stairs, first time falling, first time feeling like pain. All these firsts, and you know they're firsts, and that's fascinating to you. But everybody else doesn't know their firsts. Only the kids' parents know that this is a first time thing, and they only, their kids, the parents like see all these little like steps of progress. And you see, what people don't realize also about babies is if you don't have kids and you think that babies just do all these things instinctually. They walk instinctually, they talk instinctually, they everything that they do is instinctual. And I'm not saying that instincts don't motivate it. They definitely do, a lot of it. But what you don't realize until you see it is how intentional all of this is. Their attempts to learn how to speak is very intentional. Their attempt to learn how to walk is very intentional. They see you do it. They want to do it. They purposely practice it. They sit there and they practice crawling. They sit there and they practice walking. They sit there and they practice picking things up when they're even younger. All these things are like very intentional actions by them. And of course they are, because their bodies aren't even built for it. So not only do they have to learn how to walk, they have to learn how to walk while building the muscles and the coordination necessary to walk. They don't have it. Like if you took the consciousness, the mind of somebody who was 20, 30 years old and knew how to walk, and you swapped it somehow into the body of few-month-old infant, you would not be able to walk or even crawl. Just even if you knew how, you don't have the muscle to do it. And so it's just all these little things that you don't realize, that make a lot of these things monumental achievements that you don't understand are monumental achievements until you see them go through the whole process. Like even their vocal cords, there are muscles involved with this that must develop, and there's coordination with your lips and your tongue and your breath that allow you to make the sounds that you want to make. And my daughter's favorite animal is a lion or a duck. I don't know. It depends on the day. And she's obsessed with the Lion King. She's obsessed with lions. And she has like little toy lions, and she can't say lion though. She goes like lion. She says like dada ron. It's like dada lion and mama lion, and it's like mama lion. You don't know what she's even saying if you're not her parent. You're just like, this is babbling. And I had some friends who don't have children yet. Hopefully they do, God willing, one day. Try and imitate, like, tell me how babies are. Like, they'll be like, oh, babies will be like, I went and saw the train in the sky and it was under the sun. And it's like, I sat there and I was like, oh yeah, that's how babies are. And I was like, no, they're not, because I'm not going to say anything in that moment. But I'm telling you, that's not what it goes on. What goes on is they know exactly what they're trying to say to you. They don't know. They don't have the coordination to get the sound right. And so the development of language in the beginning is very much like a Mid-Journey prompt, where you prompt Mid-Journey and you're like, make you know, a, a lion, riding on a duck, I don't know, or a lion, chasing a duck. And then what happens is you get this very blurry picture that you have no idea what it is. And then it says like, 10% done. And then it's like 25% done. It's got the colors going. You can start to see colors. And then it's got, 50% done and you can kind of see a shape. And 75% done, it's really blurry still, but you about to see kind of like what the picture is going to look like, the layout of it. And then it gets to like 90 and then 100%. And then it's clear. And, that's how language is for like babies and early toddlers that don't have the verbal coordination and muscles necessary to make the sounds that they are trying to imitate. It's just like a blurry picture, but that gets clearer and clearer over time. It's like oh my gosh, I forgot the name for that type of AI development. There's autoregression, which is what LLMs use, and then there's diffusion model. And so basically, it's funny because LLMs use autoregression to generate words, and so do we when we're speaking. But when we're learning to say, to be able to make the sounds that we want to make initially, and we're developing the ability to do it, verbal coordination and physicality necessary to make the sounds that we want to make. It's actually much more like an like a diffusion model. So language starts as a diffusion model, and then turns into like an autoregressive model, which is fascinating. It's like both forms of AI or DNA, which I call them DNAs, which is dynamic network algorithms, like prompt generation is going into language, and you see that with your kids, and it's an amazing thing to see. It's fascinating. I can't wait to do the entire episode on the development of language, but even like her intonations and like her rate, she raises her eyebrows like in the proper moments, sometimes like the proper social moments, and you're like, when did you learn that? But they observe you. They want to be able to communicate with you. That's their goal. And she'll bring me things, and like all the time she brings me my water bottle every morning, and it's not a random action. She knows that you drink water, and it's good to drink water. And I give her water bottle for dinner, and when we're on a walk, and it's funny because every time I take it, I go, thank you, and she goes, thank you, which is thank you to her. So she doesn't understand. She just knows that when you give somebody something, she thinks both people say thank you. Like that's the word that you say when somebody's given something, which is halfway right. But you totally understand why she thinks that, because when she gives you the water bottle, you say thank you, and so she's imitating you. And she thinks that's what you say when you give somebody something. So she'll give you something and then say thank you for when she gives you something, even if you don't say thank you. So I'm trying to teach her please now when she's wants food, and she's like, toddlers will just scream sometimes. They'll sit there and they'll just be hungry and in the high chair, and you'll be like making the food, and they'll be like just ah. And it's not random. It's because they are hungry. They don't know what you're doing. They don't know what a microwave does, and they just know that like they've been put in this place where they're supposed to be eating, and the food isn't there. And so they're trying to tell you like, I'm hungry, but they don't know how to say it. And so I'm like, you say please, and then you get food. And then she said please last week for the first time. It's amazing. It's an amazing thing to see. And I hope everybody watching this has, you know, uh, you know, finds a spouse, or who has a spouse, gets the chance to see it one day. If you don't, being a dad and husband is the best. It's amazing to be a dad and a husband. It is amazing. It's like it's fills your life with so much real meaning. That's also stressful. Real meaning is also stressful. It means like you have responsibilities to people. People are relying on you. And um so that means that you're able to feel meaningful, but it also means that you have responsibilities. But it is amazing. Anybody that says that marriage is like really hard, like, oh, marriage is so hard. I haven't been married for that long. I've been married since 2021, so it's been about 4.5 years, something like that, and coming up on 5 years. And I can tell you a lot about marriage at this point still, even though I haven't been married. There are people that have been married 10 times longer than that, yeah, even more. But there are some things that are just like about marriage in general, whether it's and it doesn't matter how long it's lasting. If it's meant to be permanent and you're committed through the hard times, then it's the advice is basically the same. Always. It's just the same problems come up, hopefully less and less, as time goes on. But if marriage is really, really hard for you, then there's something wrong that you need to figure out. Your spouse should be your home. Like being around your spouse is where you should be relaxed, the most yourself. And that doesn't mean you let yourself go. Again, it's about, you have responsibilities to take care of yourself for the sake of your spouse, even. People who say, oh, you have to take care of yourself for the sake of you, that doesn't make any sense. You don't have to do anything for the sake of you. That's not responsibility. Responsibility is to others, not to yourself. I hate when people say, oh, responsibility to myself. No, you have a responsibility to yourselves to take care of your body, because they are someone else, each one of them. And you have a responsibility to your spouse, the people that you're committed to, and that you also that rely on you, your children, your parents. You do have a responsibility to your parents. But marriage is different because it's permanent. It's just a different relationship. Your parents aren't even a permanent relationship. Your parents aren't permanent. Your siblings aren't permanent. Your children aren't even permanent. They'll always be your child, but they're not your partner through life permanently. They are not. They're not your partner in life. And your spouse is. Marriage is a wonderful thing. There's really only benefits from marriage. That doesn't mean there's also not sacrifices, but those sacrifices are not actual losses, or they shouldn't be in an ideal situation. If they are, then the issue isn't marriage. It's the two individuals who make up the marriage are failing at something. But it is hard. We got started late tonight because I my wife wasn't feeling well, and I had to like take on more things that she normally has to do, and I think she's feeling better now. I know she is. I asked her before this, but like I don't know. We've been battling something, as you guys know. Like we got sick, and I was out for like a week, and the sickness lasted a long time. Everybody that I know that's been getting sick, it's been lasting a while, and at night even like I have like a cough that comes back still, even though I now feel pretty good. But I had to go on antibiotics and everything. I went to urgent care. Do you know how sick I have to be to go to urgent care and cancel a stream? These live streams, these weekly live streams are the most consistent thing I've ever done in my life, for as long as I've been doing them at this point. And the timing varies. Sometimes it's at 8, sometimes it's at 9:30 when I have to put my daughter to bed, and give her a bath and just make her food and everything. But it's always, I always show up unless I am sick or out of town. But this I was really sick. It sucked. I don't know. I don't even take Tylenol, yet I went to urgent care. Last time I went to urgent care, I stabbed my hand with a knife. It was literally a few weeks after my daughter was born, and we were in our apartment in California, and I had gotten a knife, new, like, just a new, like, outdoor knife. It's the knife that the Navy SEALs are issued. It's called a Cold Steel SRK. You can look it up, and it's a knife like this. It's the same size as this knife, basically, and it's basically that for the sake of this conversation. And I pulled it out of the sheath, and it was kind of stuck, and I pulled it out because I was pulling hard, and I went back, by accident. When you're pulling on something really hard, and you kind of like, but you don't want to overextend it because it's a knife, so you kind of go like this, and I did that and went right into my hand. And at the time, they were painting my apartment complex, and our front door was off the hinges because there was workmen there painting it. So my daughter is like 2 weeks old. My wife gave birth 2 weeks earlier, and our front door is off the hinges, and they're painting it. And I had just stabbed myself, and I was just praying. I was like, oh, I hope it's not as bad as it could be. And I opened my hand, and I saw my tendons and muscles, and I immediately closed my hand up and walked out to my wife, looked at my wife, and I was like, we need to go to the hospital. And I was like, I stabbed myself. And I told the guys to put the door back on. We get in the car, we're going to the hospital. And on the way, I did not want to go to the hospital. Like, I've been to the hospital once where my friend like cut his knee open on some glass, and like we were there literally for like 9 hours or something like that. And it was awful. So I called up urgent care, and I was like, if I have a cut on my hand, can you guys stitch it up? And they were like, where is it on your hand? And I was like, it's on my palm. And they were like, no, you need to go to the hospital for that. And I was like, okay. And I hung up, and I went to urgent care anyways, and they stitched up my hand. Thankfully, I didn't need to go to the hospital. They x-rayed it there, and I didn't have any tendon or bone damage, thank God. But yeah, that's what it takes to get me to go to urgent care. That's how sick I was. That's my point. But all right, I would care. I get it. Good. I'm glad. What do you think about tautologies? Like what Chris Langan talks about, saying the same thing twice in different words, basically considered to be a fault of style. They arrived one after the other in succession. Tautologies. All of the evidence in support of these claims boils down to tautologies and circular reasoning. What is an example of tautology? Tautology examples include both redundant phrases like added bonus, yeah, that's funny, or free gift, that's funny, and logical statements that are always true, such as either it will snow or it won't. Yeah, Well, here's one that I talked about last week, a tautology that I don't like, is when Bernardo Kastrup says, um, uh, nature does what it does because it is what it is. Okay. Yes. Sure. That doesn't tell me anything, though, actually, about it. It literally tells me nothing. It just says, nature is nature. Okay. You didn't even define nature. You didn't define nature, you didn't describe nature, and you didn't explain nature. But you are acting like you did all three at once. That's a tautology. That's an issue. I called it out last week. While listening while sitting on the bed with my two boys, being a parent is amazing. It's amazing. It's so amazing. Um, and people told me that, and I knew it would be, but it's amazing. And it's fascinating because you see like the real difference in like a mom's role and a dad's role. We all sometimes have to fill a role that pick up the slack, basically, like when somebody is out of commission for some reason. Like sometimes it's something goes wrong and it's a mom that has to defend her kids, from like violence or something, and because the dad's not there, and sometimes mom is sick and it's the dad's role to bathe and feed the kid. But you really see the way, like where everybody just naturally falls, and when you have a kid. And one of the really interesting things that I realized is that the most important the role that is the most important for men, for fathers, is to be an example. So for women, it's to be a caregiver. Their job is to keep the kid alive. Like that is their job, is to give them what they need to be alive, and to like intuit what a child is basically asking for, however they're asking. And but a father's job is to be an example of a goal. And so when people think about like their dads, and I have a daughter and I don't have a son yet. I pray one day I do. But one of the things that I realized is that, and just thought a lot about, is what is my job? How can I be the best dad to my daughter as possible? And really what that means, I think mostly, is to be a good husband to my wife, because what my job is, the most important impact that I will have is to set the example of the type of man that she wants to pursue, because I'm the example that she perceives as being successful because she's here. Even if, when women are like, my dad sucked, even if he did, like, they'll still usually go for guys that are like their father in some ways, because there's instincts involved here. It's not just like logic and imprinting and all kinds of things. So it's not your relationship with your daughter that actually matters most to the impact on your daughter. It's your relationship with your wife. And it's really hard to prioritize your spouse when you have a kid, because it takes conscious effort, because your child is like, you choose to love your spouse. And in like you do, love is a choice. But the infatuation that you have for your child, because they're ever changing, they're literally different every day, is, especially when the younger they are, the more different they are every single day, because every single day is a larger percentage of their life than when they're young. That's why, by the way, like summers felt so long and a year felt so long when you're 8, is because you're comparing it to the 7 previous years of your life, or the 4 that you remember. And that's like a fourth of your remembered life, which is that's a big part of your life. So you're going to perceive a year as a really long time. When you're 40, it's or 50. A year is a fraction of that. It's like a tenth of that. So, and you compare it to all the other years that you remember. So that's how you reference time. And you don't compare this year's to last year. You compare this year to everything that you remember. And so that everything you remember is going to be longer than a year unless you're two. So it's that's why time seems to move quicker as you get older, is because it's perceived as a smaller portion of the whole of your experience as you get older. It's actually like brilliantly simple and makes so much sense, but we don't talk about it because our metaphysics and science is flawed. But the point is that your relationship with your spouse needs to be the priority when you have a kid, and it takes a conscious effort. That is actually hard. So being the best spouse you can be becomes more difficult when you have a kid because you're both so focused on your child. But you should actually prioritize each other. I remember when I was an anti-theist, and I was like a teenager, and I remember hearing somebody who was Christian say, the most important, you should prioritize God and then your spouse and then your kids. And I was like, that's ridiculous. Your kids are the most important thing. They're your legacy. And then your spouse, and God doesn't exist. So they're not important at all. And that I was so wrong. Your spouse is your permanent relationship in life. They are the one who you go through life with, and who you have the most impact on, actually, while you're alive. Other than just like, obviously your kid wouldn't exist if you weren't here, but I'm talking about like active impact is on your spouse because it's permanent, and then they are the most important person in the world to you. They need to be the priority, but God is above them, because prioritizing God is how you realize like even what it means to do good for someone else. And I didn't realize that at the time. Now I do. But your kid is the least important person in that trinity. But they are still very important, and they're the easiest one to love. Like they are the one that you naturally want to love because of you perceive them as the most vulnerable too. They look like they need you the most, and so that's tough. But you can figure out how to be a good parent and be a good spouse. But if you're a husband, the most important role you have as a parent is to be a good spouse, actually, in front of your kids, and set a good example, because you need to set an example for your daughter of what type of man you would want her to find as a husband, and also for your son, you want to set an example of the type of man that you want him to be, and that's not modeled by how you treat your children as much as it is modeled by how you treat your spouse. It's still modeled by how you treat your kids, but that example comes up later when they have kids. But if they don't have kids, like then they and you were great, you're a really nice parent, but you were like a cruel spouse or something, they're not even going to get to the point of having, they're not going to have the successful marriage necessary to lay that foundation for like a good environment to have a child anyway. So there's an order to how things happen and how things have to happen. And that order does dictate, what should be the priority in any given moment. Even if ultimately it's all important. We go through life moment to moment, and so in every moment there is something that is priority, or someone that should be the priority in that moment. It's funny because I remember, like, whenever, even a couple of years ago, hearing people say like, "Oh, you want to share some dad wisdom?" and and I remember just like hearing that and just being like, "Oh, okay, that other guys, they share dad wisdom," and now it's like, when you're the dad, it's weird because you don't feel that different. Uh, you just, your life has changed, but like you are the same. So um, you have this idea in your head of like, some people are fathers and some people are not. It's like, no, some people become fathers and some people don't. But uh, and I would say, like, there's a biological father, but then there's also like a real like father, which is an active father, which is, you know, requires many things. But first and foremost, being a good husband. Hello, Tyler, Paulina, and chat. What's up, Michael? Listening. Okay, bring your own. Being your own toddler's interpreter is hilarious. It's so funny. You are their interpreter. Nobody else understands them, and you will understand them. If my daughter was sitting here and she was like, "Dada, right," you'd be like, "She said Dada. Dada is lying," but no, she's saying Dada, Dada lion. It's also fascinating because, uh, like, one of the things that we're like gonna have to deal with somehow, and again, this is my first child, so I'm not an expert, but I'm just telling you what I'm perceiving, and also what I perceive and what I'm anticipating is, like, you have to somehow teach your kid like an honest and true understanding of gender, as as they age, and different, and like what that means, and like, they don't, when, it's like, my daughter doesn't know anything about like genitals. So like, that's not how she is, like, perceives men and women, which she thinks of as mamas and dadas. But her favorite movie is Lion King, and so lions are like the perfect example of gender, and they made me think a lot about like the morality of facial hair for men, because male lions have a mane, and I have a beard, and um, I I think it would be, if my wife had short hair and I didn't have any facial, and I had short hair and I didn't have any facial hair. I don't know how I would explain gender to my kid, like even begin to explain gender to my kid. Like I don't know how they would even be able to like really perceive start to perceive it. Eventually they would, but like it would take more. And uh, I really recognize like the important role that like facial hair has, and why like traditional cultures, like theistic cultures particularly, will men have beards, and also why we like, even when we have bathroom signs, when you look at a sign on a bathroom, there's two things that you perceive as being like defining of like the one sign as being male, one sign as being female, with that don't have like words, they have symbols. So one of them is just a person, stick figure, arms, legs, head, body. But then the other one, a woman, has a dress. Usually it's like, that triangle with the 2 feet sticking out the bottom, and the arms, and then the head, and the head has long hair. Always, it's like you can see the outline of having long hair. And even in traditional cultures, like in theistic cultures, and in scripture, it says like men are supposed to dress a certain way, women are supposed to dress a certain way. And like, if you're both wearing like skinny jeans and a black t-shirt, and neither one of you has any facial hair, both of you have a crew cut, it's like, what is your kids supposed to like start to latch onto about regarding, you know, different differentiation in gender. Um, and it's very important, actually. Like, it really is. I remember when I was a kid, my dad always had a mustache, and then he shaved his mustache off, and that was all he had was a mustache because it was the 90s. And he shaved his mustache off one day, and my brother, he was probably like 4, started hysterical crying when he saw my dad. He did not know what to do with himself. Like, it was a change in how he perceived my dad. And my mom, would get different, change her hair up or something like that, and straighten it or curl it or whatever, and none of that caused like hysterical crying. But removal of a mustache, it was like dad is gone. And I just thought it was funny at the time, and for many years, but I didn't really realize like why that was such a sign that there's something really defining about that. And it really made me believe in like the responsibility of men to grow facial hair, whatever they can. Yeah, people say not everybody can grow a beard. Almost every man can grow something, and whatever you've got, own it. That's what I'll say. But yeah, and it's just interesting, like, to watch them develop like a concept of gender and stuff, and it really, we haven't started potty training yet, but like there are things that I can teach, and there are things that I can't, and there are things that my dad could teach me that my mom could not about that whole situation, and it's really makes you realize like how important it is to have a mom and a dad, for a kid to have a mom and a dad. It really is like it's they need an example of both. Like, just because you're a man, you're a boy, does not mean that you only need a male example in your life. Just because you're a girl doesn't mean you only need a motherly or womanly example in your life. Both girls and boys need an example of both. Like, men need to know how they should act, and that means they need an example to know. And women need to know, like, as far as men being a man, and women need to know like what type of man they should pursue, and that means they need an example of that type of man. And for women, it's a little different, because women are so instinctual with their kids. Like, it is, yes, mothers are the example that mothers set is very important, but it's much less important to their children, because what's more important is, did they keep you alive? And I can tell you that what's interesting is my wife is a very different type of mother, and both very good mothers. Like, if you make it to adulthood, your mom succeeded. If you didn't die in childhood, your mom succeeded. But nobody's perfect, but that's the marker of success as a mom. And it's actually like astounding. It is quite the feat. It's not just the bare minimum. It's the bare minimum and also the benchmark of success. But my wife is a very different type of mother than her mom is, and in certain ways that don't matter to this discussion, but both great moms. But my wife, in certain ways, is like more similar to my mom, probably, in terms of like how she is a mom. And that's probably not a coincidence, and you don't know what they're going to be like as a mom until they're a mom. So it's not like you're just looking for that. There's some type of intuition that is and subtlety to our instincts that is just fascinating, that pick up on this type of stuff. And like there are similarities between me and my wife's father that are really odd. And that she didn't even know about till like way later, and till after she met me. And so it's not like she was looking for that, like similar interests that she didn't even know her father had until after she met me. So was she looking for a man with those interests? No, but there's something that was carried over, that usually probably predisposes somebody to those types of instincts, those types of interests. But you you cannot understand humanity outside of perceiving marriage at all. You just can't. Not really. And and trying to have kids at some point, like you, even if you can't, and because God, has given you circumstances that were beyond your control, and there is so much that is beyond your control, and that's when you try and have kids, it is it is like the most vulnerable you've ever been. um you talk like I will talk to my brothers about almost anything, but that was not something that I accept. That, like, whenever, and that's true of every couple that I know. It's like you'll tell your closest friends about all kinds of other things, but you will not. You will keep that one close to the chest because you're so vulnerable, and sharing it makes you feel even more vulnerable. And so it's like it's also so sacred that you have it. It's something that needs to be intimate between a husband and wife. It's just like those keeping those trials to yourself, at least for as long as you need to process them. That doesn't mean you don't share. You should share your life. It helps people see that others go through the same types of challenges, and helps you see what seems to work for other people, what doesn't, and it inspires people. But there are some things that are really sacred between a husband and wife that are meant to be processed by them, at least first privately. And but if you, my point is that if you try to have kids, you will understand how the vulnerability of that we all have in that circumstance, and how, you will feel how important children are, even if you don't end up being able to have one. And I also think that I mean, in my family, I'm the oldest of 5 kids, and my youngest brother is adopted, and he was my mom's best friend, was a single mom, and she passed away from like a heart attack randomly one day in the shower, and when he was like 1 year old, and my parents were his godparents and adopted him. And I mean, we knew my whole life. My mom was in the room when he was born. Because she didn't have a husband. My mom's friend didn't have a husband, so my mom went with her. That's so it's interesting that like my parents adopted a kid that they knew their entire lives, literally like down to the second. But but so I have seen that side of things too, of adoption versus just kids that are born. And I think that if you can't have kids and want kids, and you're married, and you should be a married couple, to if you're gonna try and have any children, whether they're adopted or born, because of all the reasons I just said earlier. But like I think that that's almost like a responsibility of people who want kids, but not even who want kids, but who are married couples and who can't have kids of their own, and is to adopt. And like every child should ideally have a mom and dad, and there's a lot of meaning that you can still have, and you can still be a parent. But my point is though is that even if that doesn't happen, you don't do that for some reason, um, you will feel how important children are, even if you try and have them and are not able to, and it gives you still enough wisdom um, to really like change the level of wisdom that you're at, like not just a bit but like a lot. It like up levels you, like it's not an it's not what's, I guess you could say like an arbitrary added amount of wisdom. It is like a totally different level of wisdom that you are on. When we get married, that's what that happens when you if you were anti-theist and then you realize God, then that's a whole nother level. That's probably the biggest jump in wisdom that you can possibly get. It's just by realizing the existence of God, if you don't already realize it. And I know that, having been somebody who went through that myself as well. And so it's just it's good to be wise. We need as many wise people as we can, and we've been we delay wisdom in society. Even dogs, like dogs are not described well in theistic cultures. There isn't a culture on earth where like the wise true like theistic culture like reveres dogs. Doesn't mean they hate dogs, but like they are seen as often negatively. And I grew up, in a house with dogs. My first dog was an Irish Wolfhound when I was a kid, which is the biggest dog in the world. And so that's my experience with dogs. And literally was like 190-pound like dog. And my dad is 6'2", and he could pick up that dog by his paws and hold him up like this. And he was like way taller than my dad. It's like a horse. And I like dogs. Dogs are easy to like, usually. And, but a good dog, a well-behaved dog, but they do delay when you get a dog before you have kids. I will say this: if you don't have a dog and you don't have kids, don't get a dog first. And I say that as somebody who got a dog first. Have kids first, get married, then have kids, and then if you want a dog for some reason, get a dog. And I suggest it should be like a dog that can be some type of guard dog. That it should have a purpose, not just like a chihuahua. Like it's gonna just be a burden. You might think it's a cute burden, but it's still just a burden. I get that many people are not going to like that, but I just hear me out. And what happens though is, and it's actually very frustrating to me, is you get a dog and it fills this role in your mind, this like box in your mind that is it's supposed to be reserved for children. And when I first got my dog Maya, she's a Belgian Malinois, and she has her, like every dog, every being has their flaws, other than God, but she's a very like nice dog and a good dog. She usually listens and is usually very nice dog. But and when I first got her, I put a picture on my Instagram up, and I was like, I have adopted my first child. So it's like long before I even was engaged. And then my wife got her dog Noah, who's like a Cavapoo little, like not a tiny dog, but like a little poodle mix, and not a foo-foo dog, but just not a big dog. And but they're like your kids, people call them like my fur babies or whatever, which is a term I hate, but like I understand it because I wrote on my Instagram, I've adopted my first child. And then what happens is you actually have kids, and your dogs are just, for the most part, unless they're filling some kind of role, they are a burden. Some of them are more of a burden than others, but they are a burden. And not only are they like a burden, they you have filled the part in your mind that is cute, that for a cute baby, with like a dog, and you don't you realize it, but like you don't really realize what that does to you. And then you go and you try and talk to your dogs after you have a kid, and you realize that you talk to your dogs like you do to your kid, and it frustrates you, or it frustrates me, and I think it should frustrate you if this happens. Or you talk to your kid like you talk to your dogs, and you catch yourself using like similar phrases and intonations and stuff, and you're like, but you see the vast disparity in like importance, even though I love my dogs. But no, like my daughter is that's my daughter. And there's no comparison. There's just absolutely no comparison in the world. And I love my dogs like a lot. It's like as much as they can be frustrating me sometimes. By the way, my dog, I don't know if you guys have been following this, but I have this spider that is lived outside, and I've talked about it, named Charlotte, and it lives in our backyard, that my daughter and I go and see every day, and I feed it, and like it's literally right outside my bedroom window, so we see it every morning when we wake up, literally, like, and it's this big. My dog killed the spider tonight, and I was so angry. It's part of why the stream got started later. So this is not the reason why I'm so angry at dogs, but I'm pissed at my dog right now. And I literally got I had our like lawn mowed because we had just massive like amount of mowing that needed to take place. It's a long story. I take care of it, but then the sprinklers broke, and I tried to like bring the grass back that had died. So I was watering every day, and weeds just took off, and it was too high for my manual mower, which is like a push mower which is an amazing invention, but you can't mow anything more than the height of grass, like a lawn. And so I had somebody else come and do it. And I had them avoid the spider because has become like, part of our daily routine. And I've shared videos on here. And then the next day, my dog kills a spider. I'm pissed. What I'm getting at is like, it will be frustrating to try and like navigate. Now how do I treat my dogs after I've had my kid? Because I used to treat my dogs like my kid, and now I have a kid, and now I see that they're not the same. So how do I treat my dogs? Now I have to change how I treat my dogs, actually, and I don't know which means that's like an unnatural thing. Like whatever relationship and routines you developed have to change. And so my suggestion to you, if you want dogs, and I'm not saying don't get dogs, some dogs are great. Some situations are perfect for dogs, but have kids first. Get married first, then have kids, then get a dog. And I bet you if I did that, I wouldn't have like as many issues talking to my dogs, like praising my dogs, and then like basically like using the same phrases and stuff that I use for my kid. Because then you sit there and you start talking to yourself, they're like, or thinking to yourself, do I treat my kid like a dog, or do I treat my dogs like a kid? And reality is you treat your dogs, you used to treat your dogs like a kid, and now you treat your kid like a kid, and it's weird to treat your dogs like a kid. It like confuses your mind, and your instincts. Not something I ever even thought would ever be an issue, but I feel like most of our people my age, and I'm 34, most millennials, even like late Gen Z probably, like our parents had kids and then got a dog, and then we all grew up with dogs, and we were like, oh, dogs are awesome, we love dogs, and dogs equal fun. And your parents are responsible for the dogs. They pay for the dogs, they vet and everything, but dogs are just fun for you. and then you grow up and you get older, and you, for some reason, we don't prioritize getting married and having a kid, but you want a dog because, and you also have this instinct. You like dogs, and you have this instinct that's brewing in you from the time you're like, you know, 18, 19 till, through your 20s, probably more fervently than at any other point in your life, to like want kids and and you just don't realize it. And it manifests as like getting a dog. And Brett Weinstein once said, I was talking to him on Twitter years ago, and he was like, said something about dogs, and I don't remember the exact conversation, and I was like, he said that dogs, I said dogs probably delay our attempt to, our us trying for children, which is not good. You shouldn't wait. You don't know how long it's going to take. We tried for 3 years, and like my wife got pregnant on her wedding night, and we lost multiple pregnancies before we had my daughter. And it took years for us. Sometimes it doesn't, but sometimes it does. You want to give yourself as much time as possible. And but I was like, dogs probably delay us having children. And Brett Weinstein was like, yeah, that's probably true. And that might be a good thing, because like an older parent is a wiser parent. And I was like, no, actually an older, a wiser parent is one with more experience, or not just a parent, but a person. Like a wiser person is an older person. And I was like, no, that's correlation, not causation. Causatively, like your experiences make you wiser, and certain experiences are critical to like kind of an objective level of wisdom. And one of them is trying to have kids or having kids, and delaying that doesn't make you wiser when you become a parent. It just makes you more tired when you become a parent, and because you're older. And so and it decreases your chances of becoming a parent. Your wisdom, it comes from experience, not age. It just correlates with age, because older people usually have more. The older you get, the more experiences you have. But you can have somebody who's 25 who has had way more objectively critical life experiences, like getting married, like having kids, than somebody who is not pursuing marriage, not pursuing kids. And the pursuit of these things actually makes you wiser intrinsically, because you realize the value of, like, a lot of the value of it just by wanting it, or by pursuing it. And not just by wanting it, but by pursuing it, by making the conscious choice of pursuing it, and either failing or succeeding, shows you the value. You wanting it versus not wanting it does not actually show you the value. It's pursuing it, choosing to pursue it, that shows you a lot of the value, even if you don't achieve it. But yeah, I remember I had that conversation with him, and I saw it even then. I remember, like, because it was around the time that I had gotten engaged, or I was about to get engaged, and I had got like a ring already. I decided that I was going to get to marry my wife. But we weren't married yet. But I gained so much wisdom just by choosing to marry my wife. It was like wild, because I realized so much about like what's now in the priority, because you've made this choice. Most of men like wait in our society to get married until like they see all their other friends have started to get married, and then they're like, okay, now I kind of having FOMO. But you don't have a biological drive to get married if you're getting sex before marriage, which is why it's so bad. It causes us to just postpone marriage and postpone marriage and postpone marriage, which postpones wisdom and postpones wisdom and postpones wisdom, which then trickles down to the next generation, who now doesn't get to see like what is closer to the ideal circumstances of human family units and society. But yeah, it is fascinating how much you gain just by making a choice to pursue something. Um, and yeah, I mean, I like when I've said it on here before, the day my wife and I got married, we were taking pictures after our ceremony, and we were taking pictures in the middle of this road that was like very rural, and every now and then a car would go by, but it was like every 5 minutes. And so we were going to the middle of the road to take wedding pictures, and then every time we saw a car coming, we'd have to move, and you could see it from like a mile away. But when we were doing this, all of a sudden I was like really, really like just concerned about making sure that my wife was not like hit by a car or in danger of being hit by a car. In a weird way that I wouldn't be if it was just like my girlfriend or my siblings even, or my parents. I would still be concerned, but like I was like a little bit paranoid because you could see the car coming from a mile away, and I was like, we need to just like move. Because what you realize in that moment, what I realized in that moment is, if my parents got hit by a car today, it wouldn't change my life that much. My life plans. It wouldn't change my life plans. It would change my life, but it wouldn't change my life plans. If my siblings got hit by a car today, it would really ruin my wedding, but it wouldn't change my life plans. My wife and I would still go home, and try and build a family. If your spouse gets hit by a car that day and passes away, your entire life plans now change. And that's why your spouse is the priority. And it's like built in. It's not just something you choose. You should choose to make them a priority because they are the priority. They are. It's not artificial. They are the most important person in your life because they are the one that dictates the direction of your life. When my wife's father passed away a few years ago, it was awful. He had a heart attack. It was just awful. It was very unexpected. Nobody saw it coming. And just woke up one day and got a call that he had passed away. And he's a good man. And but we were in this really like dire circumstances, my wife and I, where we were like interviewing for jobs or something, and like both of us, and we were in very unstable like job situations. Like one of us was interviewing, one of us was just like now getting laid off, and it was just like not a good circumstance. I don't remember the exactly what was going on right now, but we were in a place where we could not just stop. Otherwise, we wouldn't have paid our rent. And so we got a call that he had passed away, and we cried, and it was awful. And I'm shocked and like tried to process. And after like 3 or 4 hours, my wife looked at me and she was like, "What do we do now?" And I was like, "I guess we go back to work." And we went back to doing what we had to, not what we want. We didn't want to. We wanted to just curl up in the middle of the floor and like, cry for a while. And we did for a while, but we didn't want to stop, and we had to. And it's like, that's not what happens when your spouse passes away. Like your world, the world you were living is now gone. If that happens, prematurely, at least. And yeah, that's why they're the priority. If your kid passes away, it's awful. I hope I never experience that. And, but I've seen people have that happen. Doesn't change the trajectory of their plans. It changes your life, but it doesn't necessarily change the most of your other like major plans. But your spouse is actually the plan of your life. Like that's when you plan your life, like that's the beginning of your life, is who am I going to marry? Who am I going to go through the rest of my life with? And it's more so that they are the plan. It's they're everything else you do is for the sake of them, basically, throughout your life. You work for them. You don't have a spouse to help you, with your job or help you get things done while you're working. You work to provide for your spouse. They are the plan. But yeah, hope this, is interesting to you guys. But let's go back to the chat. Monkey see, monkey do. Not even monkey see, monkey do. Sometimes a little bit. Like my daughter is like a parrot a little bit. Like she'll just repeat things that I say, but she usually knows what they mean before she starts to say them. And it's not just blind repetition. She is like learning by example, but she also is given the context of what these words mean as she hears them. So babies say words. This is why mama and dada are like the first words of babies say. They're not like, but you're saying all these other words. Like, why is banana or food or dinner? Like you say to your wife every day, what do you want to eat for dinner? Or your wife says to you, what do you want to eat for dinner? What do you want to eat for breakfast? What do you want to eat for lunch? You say eat all the time. Why isn't eat like the first word of babies usually? It's usually mama or dada. For my daughter, it was dada. It's because they understand what dada and mama are. Like those are like the first things that they understand. It's like who is mama and dada? What are they to me? They're everything to me, to them, to babies at the time, especially moms. Like your dad, the job of another part of the job of a father, other than being an example, is just to be the entertainment. Like you need to be the distraction when like a kid is crying because they're frustrated and mom is trying to get things done, and it's like dad's job to literally just try and do anything to make the kid laugh. And so like I will do the most random things. I will like just take for a while, like you have to constantly up the ante, because after a little bit, and it doesn't take long, your tricks are no longer impressive. So you have to constantly do new tricks for your kids as a father. And so my daughter would start crying or something when she was really, really little, and I would just take something and place it on top of my head, and like, this is a coin, and I'd just be like, it's actually a cool coin. This is a pure silver coin that I shot with a sniper rifle, 300 yards a couple weeks ago. It was my first time, probably my best shot too. My best shot. I mean, I shoot. Like there's a rifle. There's like an AR-15 over there, and I'm carrying a handgun. I carry every day, but I don't have a PRS or long distance rifle. But I was somewhere where someone else did, and there was a challenge to hit this coin, and I hit it. It was pretty cool. Actually, here's a video. I know, side tangent, but it's an Ask Me Anything. I'll get to the chat in a minute, but here's a video of that me shooting that goal.
Okay, I say shoot it whenever you're ready. Oh! Nice. Did you do it?
Yep.
Yeah!
Can I do one more?
Well, I don't know. Do you want to? You want to put more than one hole in it?
No, probably. It's fine.
Okay. It's up to you.
I'll do one more.
One more. Okay, so who wants to put one more? Let's go for it, and then we'll go cold and have you go grab it. How's that? No, get that nice and vertical. There you go. Slow on that trigger. Nice and slow.
Fuck yes.
Yeah, dude. Good job.
Sick.
It was a good time. I'm a martial artist. That shooting is a martial art, and I've done all kinds of martial arts. And I can't show you any firearms live on here. I can play a video, but that's not live. But I can't show. And you can have like a firearm like mounted to the wall behind you, or it's leaning up against the wall, but you can't touch it on a live stream on YouTube for fairly obvious reasons. Like, you know, I'm sure they learned that one the hard way. But yeah, that's another role of guys, of husbands and fathers, is be somewhat proficient in in self-defense and martial arts. And like martial arts, by martial arts I mean just like shooting, even, you know. I've done jujitsu, I've done every martial art you can think of: Muay Thai, Taekwondo, karate, kenjutsu, fencing, and shooting. But the thing is like, I used to, before I started, by the way, I have a concealed carry license. I definitely recommend getting that. Know what you're doing, and how to do it responsibly, and legally, you know, for the sake of, you know, liabilities. But I'm stopped doing jujitsu for a while, because I got proficient enough to defend myself in the moments that I have needed it so far. And actually, like, really twice I needed to use jujitsu in a fight, and to defend others both times. Actually, it wasn't even it was to defend myself, and then the person turned on me, and then I had to defend myself. Or I was trying to help others who people were being aggressive to, and then the person turned on me, and then I had to defend myself. And luckily it worked, but both times. But if it's a life or death situation, you don't need jujitsu if you carry a firearm and you know what you're doing with it. So I stopped doing unarmed martial arts for a while. But I am going to get back into it because I just need something that is going to get me back in better shape, because your metabolism takes a dive when you get older. And but it's not for the sake of like self-defense though anymore. I'm already pretty proficient enough to where like I can handle myself in some situations that are non-lethal. But you know, it also has its limits. I'm a small guy. If somebody is like, I had a friend who went on to, who I went to high school with, and he went on to play in the NFL. Not like famously, like he was like one of the worst people in the NFL. But one of the worst people in the NFL is, he was a linebacker in the NFL. Like, he was a small linebacker in the NFL, but he's a linebacker in the NFL. And all my friends have always been bigger than me, almost all of them growing up, because I'm pretty short, and I'm like 5'6" or 5'7", probably 5'6", something like that. But I could handle like myself with people who are considerably bigger than me. Not him. I remember once I tried to get him in a rear naked choke, and he literally just went like, I was on his back, and he literally reached his hand behind his head, grabbed me by the back of my shirt, and flipped me over the front of his head like I was a rag doll. And I was like, dang. That was the day I saw the limits of my jujitsu skills. But yeah, that's another responsibility of men. Natural responsibility. And for some reason, we perceive guns differently than we perceive everything else. Like swords and, you know, jujitsu. And it's not different. It's the same thing. And it's just the modern equivalent. It's funny. Everybody thinks that like they see all men see movies, and where, you know, what doesn't matter if it's Star Wars or if it's Indiana Jones or if it's, you know, any movie. The bad guys are always, you know, armed, and the good guy is also usually armed. Like unless it's MacGyver, which is just stupid, and he's not unarmed. That's what makes it stupid. Is he just uses makeshift arms, which they're still arms. And but like every man in their head puts themselves in the position of these characters, these male characters that they see, these heroes, and you're like, that would be me. You know, you see like The Walking Dead, and you're like, I would be the guy who survives. If you don't own a gun and you're an adult man and you're not well trained and you don't have your concealed carry permit or anything like that, like, probably wouldn't be the guy that survives. Actually, like there's just, you should carry, every guy should carry a pocket knife, and at a minimum, like, not even for the sake of like I carry this every day. This is like a Leatherman Skeletal. This is the best everyday carry tool that you can possibly have as a guy. I have this on me even when I don't have a firearm, don't have a flashlight, which I carry this. I carry a flashlight, which is a great self-defense tool, other than a gun, because you can make, first of all, it's a great tool. You can make it very, very low. And you can also blind people with it who are trying to hurt you. And then you can hit them or run, or hit them and then run, something, whatever you need to do. It's actually a very good self-defense tool. Knives are not a good self-defense tool. Nobody feels anything in a fight. And so you don't feel getting stabbed in a fight until after the fight is well over. So I just carry this for fixing things all the time. I use it every day. Even when I don't have my phone, even when I don't have my wallet on me, this is always on me. It has pliers, wire cutters. It has a screwdriver with bits, a replaceable bit. There's like a second bit here. It's stored in here. You can switch it out. And it's also just got a little knife. And definitely recommend. It's amazing. I've saved the day more times than I can count. And situations that you wouldn't even think about being the person who can fix the problem unless you actually have it, that like a tool on you that allows you to do it. You're just like people say to me I remember people would say to me all the time, oh man, yeah, I don't need to carry a knife because I just have scissors. I'll just go get scissors. And it's like, just wait till the time that you don't have scissors. And then what? Oh, I have to wait until I can get scissors. It's like, well, it's really good and wonderful that so far, like, none of those times that you've had in your life are critical enough to where like you realize the utility of having a blade on you. But you don't know when that will happen. This woman, I was at an event, and this woman was washing her hands, and she washed her wedding, this old woman, just like in her 70s, she washed her wedding ring down the drain. And there was no plumbers because it was a holiday, and it was late at night, and to call, and they could not find the like a wrench anywhere or pliers or anything where we were at. And she was like, this sucks, that I'm screwed. And I took the sink apart with this and got the ring. And everybody, like, she would call me the hero every time she saw me after that, to the point where like it's kind of got old. But I'm glad I was able to help her. Yeah, like if that happened and you were there and you didn't have that, you would just be like, oh man, sucks for her. Like you wouldn't even think I wish I had something, because you just don't put yourself in the position of being the problem solver unless you are able to perceive yourself as the person who solves the problem. And if you don't have the ability to do it, then you don't perceive yourself as the person who could have the ability to do it. That's not an important or impressive person. Like, yeah, women can call plumbers, and women can call like the cops after something bad happens, and women can call somebody to, fix something, or build something, and TaskRabbit it or whatever. That's why all those services exist. It's for women for the most part. I'm not saying men never can use them. I'm just saying, like, there was a time in which most men could do those things, but then sometimes women couldn't, and then like somebody figured it out and made a franchise, I guess. But and so like if they can call other people and people who are specialists to fix all these things, but your ability to do it is attractive. And this, if you're a man and you're not married, like, and you want a wife and you want to be attractive to women, and you're like, women just want money, and you know, all this nonsense narrative that's going on among like men who are frustrated by the frustrating, like, the admittedly like very frustrating dating world, at least judging it from the outside. And so they, you know, women will pursue rich men, but wealth does not gain you respect with women. It's just they're chasing the wealth. That's why the richest men in the world get divorced, because they have everybody doing other things for them, and they become probably like the least attractive person to their wife, because they become basically incompetent, because you just have an army of people solving every problem for you. She never gets to see you solve problems. How attractive can you be as a man if you're never perceived by your wife as solving problems? And you know, I hung and installed a coat hanger last night for my wife, and she's like very grateful for it. Once we got a flat tire, and I had never changed a tire because I had never gotten a flat, and we got a flat tire. We pulled over, and we had AAA. Could have called AAA. But I told my wife, I was like, no, actually, I want to do this. I want to look it up on YouTube and learn how to do it and try it. And then if I can't do it, then we'll call AAA. And she was like, okay, fine. It was her car. And I looked it up on YouTube, and I got the jack out and the spare tire, and I changed the tire. And I saw my wife look at me in that moment, and I immediately just really realized how important it is for men to be able to do things like that and to do them, which means like having tools to do it. Like it does. You can't change a tire without a tire wrench and a jack. And you can't take apart a sink without a wrench or pliers or something like that. You just can't. And so, you know, a lot of guys who are never very wealthy and live very like what people would describe as poverty, but I don't know what the line is for poverty, but they definitely don't live a lifestyle of like opulence, and they're really good at fixing things, and they never get divorced. I'm not saying that people who are good at fixing things don't get divorced. I'm just saying like it's not money. That's what I'm saying. And don't pursue money. Women don't care. The ones who seem like they care about money right now, and they're not the type of women that you would probably want anyways. And eventually they're not going to care about their husband's money because they can get it in a divorce, and they're not going to respect their husband. So it's important to see these things. You have to live it like you do. There's no substitute for first-person experience. People can tell you everything. I can sit here and I can preach to you all night long. But I don't just preach on here. I try and like also tell you stories about how I know this is true based on my own personal experience. I try and show you examples of me living it. You know, I can't show you that I'm carrying a Glock 43 on my hip right now because YouTube won't let me. But I'll show you me shooting, you know, this is my rifle, by the way. You can't see, that's right there. For any guys who are like wondering. That's my rifle. It's an AR-15. It's a specific type of AR-15. If you're not a gun guy already, then you don't care about anything beyond that. But and if you are a gun guy, then you can figure out what that is. It's an LWRC piston AR-15. That doesn't mean anything to you unless you're a gun person. But yeah, this is my rifle that's over there. And that is like how my house gets defended if I need to. That's how my wife and daughter, which really means that's how my wife and daughter get defended if really necessary, if they're home and I'm home. But it's important to be like competent. And everything doing and what that requires is like doing new things and learning new skills, and it's always intimidating. And it's especially hard when it's something that you're not naturally drawn to. And like I wasn't naturally drawn to firearms, at least for most of my life, because they made me feel like my martial arts training was useless. And the reality is that they kind of do, but they also don't. If you don't want to, like in the fights that I got in or that I had to use martial arts, I would never want to use a firearm in those situations because it just wasn't at the point where like I would have wanted to end somebody's life over what was going on. Like people were trying to punch me in the face, but like, and that can lead to a deadly situation, but it likely wasn't going to. And so I'm glad I had jujitsu to like keep me and them alive at the time. But in a life or death situation, a gun does make your jujitsu not really matter that much. And so I avoided it, and I was like, that's just for weak men. It's like, no, I was actually just being weak. I just was insulted by it because this thing that I had built up competence on, I felt like it was threatened by this other, completely invalidated basically by this other, tool. And, I didn't really think through do you want to be a competent fighter or not? Like, and if you do, then you have to be able to fight somebody who is, using modern fighting tools. People don't break into your house usually empty-handed and alone. It's usually like a couple people, and usually they have like a gun. Good luck with your jiu-jitsu. Like, do you want to risk bet your daughter and your wife's lives on your jiu-jitsu skills against like two assholes and a handgun like who have handguns? No, like definitely not. It's like I'm a really good shot with a handgun. I was the best shot in my CCW class, and I had the worst gun. A Glock 43 is a very small and a hard gun to shoot, and smaller the handgun, the harder it is to shoot. And I was the best shot. But if multiple people break into your house at once, and they each have like a handgun, you do not want to defend yourself with a handgun. You don't want the fight to be even. You want that to defend yourself. And there really isn't like anything that can't handle as far as like defending yourself. That sniper rifle is not, you don't need to defend yourself with a sniper rifle, but a normal rifle. Yeah. Like tools are very important for men. And like, if you're not naturally drawn to them, these skills, by demeanor, then it's especially important that you see the example set by your father, especially, or father figures in your life that in a way that would show you the importance of learning the skill, even if it's not something that you would do for fun. And I get it. Not everybody has to be like interested in guns. And I'm not like the craziest gun person. If you're not a gun person, then you think I'm a crazy gun person. But I have one rifle. And if you are a gun person, you're like, that guy has one rifle, then you wouldn't assume he's a gun person. But I'm a martial artist. I'm like I believe in like the responsibility of defense, for men to like be defenders. That's what I really like much more passionate about than like cool guns. But cool guns are cool, but that's not like my main passion in life. And it's fine if it is, but even if it's not, it's important to, learn how to use these tools. And yeah, I mean, they make you, men are like, how do I become, a valuable and important, show my value to a woman. Or there a lot of lately, it's like how, what makes a high value woman? What makes a high value man? What makes a high value man is a man who knows what is right and wrong, wants to do the right thing, plans and chooses, over at least overall to do the right thing, or to pursue the right thing. At least we all stumble and sin, but like to pursue the right thing, and who is competent in a lot of useful skills, and is committed to like, knows that the right thing to do is to like commit to the care of a woman. Like that's what makes a high value man. And what makes a woman valuable is not really as like much her choice. It's more instinctual and just intrinsic. And that's why like men are the ones that pursue that are like, women are the one that make the choice between men. It's not usually men who have like just a constant array of choices and they have to choose which one they want. You do really, but like it's not all at once usually. Whereas like, if you're a woman and I'm sure that you get more, DMs in a day than an attractive woman, especially like more DMs in a day on like a dating app on Tinder or whatever than a man gets, even an attractive man in a month. Because how much value can you display in a picture as a man, especially? You can't really. And as a woman, you kind of can. But commitment is the most important thing to being valuable to the opposite sex. But then after that, for men, it's like competence in useful skills and like a moral understanding that allows you to like be leading, usually like what it means to lead. Not to control, not to order, but to lead. Like to lead is different than to lead. Means lead by example. It doesn't mean like force people to do what you want. That's actually a feminine trait. Severity and I guess I don't want to say tyranny, but like being controlling is a feminine trait because you have to do that in order to make sure little kids stay alive and don't die of neglect or of their own stupidity. But as a man, like it's different, benevolence is a masculine trait, actually, like being able to not control, to be okay with not controlling others is a masculine trait. It can't be the trait, a feminine trait. If it was a feminine trait, women would not be able to keep little kids alive. You have to control little kids to keep them alive. And that nature is just there, or it isn't. It's not like something you can only apply to like your own kids and you just turn it off for everybody else's kids and everybody else who you perceive as like in need of assistance. No, it's just there for people and animals and any being that you perceive as vulnerable, or it isn't. But it's a masculine. Leading by example it requires benevolence. It requires like you showing what is right instead of doing just telling people what to do or trying to make people do what you want them to do. That's a feminine trait. So I try and you can let me know in the chat, but I live streamed my wedding on here. I have my wife on here. She'll be back for the stream that we do the week of February 14th, the week of Valentine's Day. We should call it Marriage Day, not Valentine's Day. Valentine's Day is a terrible holiday. I hate it. But it should be called Marriage Day, not Valentine's Day. And it should be like a celebration of marriage. And which is actual like romantic love. There's no romantic love outside of marriage. It doesn't exist. you can like feel a lot of emotions for people, but it's love is a choice, and romantic love is committed. It's like committed, um, and it's a chosen commitment to somebody who you are sexually intimate with, and like that's marriage. Then marriage is the only circumstance that exists. And even in a committed, people say a committed relationship, and I used to say that. I had two girlfriends that were my girlfriends, each for one for over a year, the other one for multiple years, and we were exclusive to each other at the time. That's not because I cared about them so much. It's because I didn't want them with anybody else, and it's also it's just not a good thing. I mean, you shouldn't be sleeping with somebody before marriage anyways, but I was an anti-theist who thought very differently at the time. So I was ignorant. But like my commitment, aka my monogamy with them, was purely selfish. Like it wasn't, there's practicality to it that's enormous, but it was just purely selfish, and dating them was purely selfish. It wasn't, and as soon as your committed relationship is a little bit too difficult to be enjoyable enough anymore, then you break up and like it's over. So it's committed until it's inconvenient. It's significantly inconvenient enough. That's not committed. There's nothing committed about that at all. At all. It's like you've been tricked into feeling like you are in something that is committed, but it's not committed. It's not even more committed than like a one night stand. It is just as committed as a one night stand. It's just like this one night stand is enjoyable enough for me to want it to be like a multiple night stand, and maybe like a multiple month stand, and maybe a multiple year stand. But as soon as it's not, convenient enough or enjoyable enough, or I think that there might be something better, this stand has ended. It's like, that's definitely not commitment. It's just convenience. You don't see that. You don't realize that though, until you like see how, like what marriage is. But marriage for most people is misunderstood today. That's when people say, we fell out of love. What the heck does that even mean? That doesn't mean anything. And if you watch my wedding, which like I said, I live streamed it because I want to walk the walk as much as possible. I'm not perfect at all. And my spouse knows that better than anybody other than God. But it's my job to try and set an example. So if you want, you can watch my wedding. It's on here. And in my vows though, I said, I promise to love you even when I don't like you. Because I thought it was important to show that they're not the same thing. Sometimes you can dislike your spouse, and sometimes you could dislike your spouse for a long time, but a lifetime is a really long time. And compared to a lifetime, even a couple of years is not a long time. Like if you knew that you were going to have the most amazing and wonderful and enjoyable marriage that would last you until you were over 100 years old, but you were going to go through 2 years of absolutely like just not enjoying each other's company very often, or at least like having it would just not liking your spouse. I would think most people objectively would say it would be worth going through the 2 years. But even if obviously it doesn't feel like it in the moment, but when people say things like, oh, we fell out of love. No, you chose to stop loving each other because you didn't like them as much in that moment. And, and I've seen in the father figures in my life, including my own father, and also like, with my parents, and also just people who are male role models to me, that, when I saw them and go through hard times in their marriage, where they were just fighting more, which will happen if you're married. A lifetime is a long time. They just went through periods of time where like their circumstances caused them to misunderstandings and disagreements. And they didn't get along as well. And they stuck it. I saw them stick it out though, like both my parents, and they didn't go through something crazy, but I definitely remember when like they were more frustrated with each other than certain times where they were more frustrated with each other than other times. But then I also know somebody who was like, they actually split, not split, but he moved out and was staying with a friend, and then moved back in with his wife, and like they made it work. But he had told he told me that he was getting divorced, and but then decided to stick it out and try again. And their marriage has never been better at this point. And it just really was like an important thing for me to see. It's important for men to see this stuff. You can't just preach it. It's really hard to you want to protect your kids and the privacy of your children and also of your spouse. But you also, as a man, it's important that we like set an example in public, especially because the examples at home are really increasingly rare. It used to be the norm that most people had a married mom and dad, and that's what they grew up with. And now that is like probably the minority at this point. And for those that do, like most of them still end in divorce, where people say we fell out of love, and which is a terrible example to set. Love is a choice. It's not a feeling. And I say that because it's hard though, because I want to say I love my daughters, like you love your kids, but no, like loving my kids is my daughter is when she's like screaming and she's not letting me brush her teeth, and she's basically like trying to fight me like with everything she's got, just where I'm just trying to brush her teeth and she's screaming at the top of her lungs because she just wants to not go to sleep and to just, I don't know, play with her toy lions or something. And you're still just like, you know what, I'm going to take care of you and make sure that you're fed and have water and are tucked in at night and bathed, even though you're really frustrating. That's love. Like when you look at your kid and your kid's just being cute and you're like, I just love my kid so much. It's like, that's not the moment that you actually see what it means to love your kid. It's the moments when you don't want to be around them and you still take care of them. And same thing with your spouse and your friends. Like if people say, I love my friends, and it's like, if when it's not convenient to be their friend, you are no longer there for them, then you don't love your friends. They're not even really your friends. Like I was trying to think a while back, like what's the difference between a friend and an acquaintance? What's the difference between somebody that is your friend versus somebody who is like you're friendly with, like a work friend? The difference is that is whether or not you're willing to be there for them when it's inconvenient. Because I have friends of mine who I don't speak to very often. It's pretty rare now. I used to speak to them all the time, but like now, don't speak to them very often. But like I have been there for friends of mine. I mean, I sacrificed even like jobs for a friend before once, and I don't regret it. That friend of mine needed me, and I was there, and yeah, I mean, that's what it means to be a friend. That doesn't mean you ruin, but the difference is that you don't let them really negatively like impact your life, like for an extended period of time. Like, it can be inconvenience you, but you can't let them take down your own family. That's your family's still priority. But if I lost my job, it would have sucked, but I wasn't letting anybody down besides me. I was unmarried at the time, and losing my income would have meant I just needed to find a replacement, and it would have sucked, but it would have not been like oh, I can't feed my kid. So, yeah, just there's always a hierarchy. Hierarchies are critical to the ordering of information, and I've showed this in my models. It's like a mind segments information into a binary triadic pattern that allows for differentiation, categorization, and hierarchization or prioritization, really. And you cannot understand the world without a hierarchy. I know Jordan Peterson and others have said that, but it's built into the very structure of our mind itself. My wife and I, whenever we're not being as productive as we want to be, like, we'll be like, you know, what's wrong with us? It's like, we have so many things we want to do. Why can't we just get anything done? And it's like, because we haven't decided on the priority and we haven't really identified what it is that day. Like what is critical for me to do today? And there's a whiteboard over there you can't see, and I'm putting magnets on the back of it so we can stick it on our fridge. And then every day we can both write what is my wife's priority, my priority for the day, her priority for the day, and our priority, like as a couple today, for the day, of what we want to get done outside of work things. You don't decide what is the priority at your job. Your boss does. But for things outside of work, you have to figure out what is, or decide what is the priority if you want to be productive. And like, if you want to do a bunch of different things and you don't know which one is going to work, or what is like most important in the moment, because really it just comes down to what you choose to do that day, then you do have to make a choice. You have to set the priority. You have to, in like realizing this type of stuff and how the mind works, and like these models of sentient singularity theory has helped me like understand what's wrong when I'm stuck, when I'm mentally stuck, and identify when I'm mentally stuck, which is, you know, sometimes difficult, you know, if you don't understand it. Like even what it means to lead, like what does it mean to lead versus like to just tell people what to do? You know, that's not leading. People think that's leading. And it's hard because sometimes even I'm like, I know what's right, and so-and-so doesn't know what's right, and they're not following me. But it's like, no, you're not actually leading. You're just preaching. And, you know, why should they take your word for whatever it is that you're preaching over anybody else's? They shouldn't, unless they see you like walking the walk and you're seeing what it does, like the value of it. And that's why I try and share and show videos of like my daughter saying her name for the first time, and my wedding to my wife, and like me shooting, you know, learning to shoot or practicing to shoot, practicing shooting or whatever it is, like some practical skill. Me showing my like multi-tool that I carry around every day. I don't just tell you to carry a knife. Like I have it on me every day. I fidget with it for the hours of streaming that I do. And tell you stories of like when it was important. Here's another one. When my wife, before we got married, when we were just dating, she got a new apartment and she wanted to put down these wooden floors over the flooring that was in there because she wanted more light and she wanted a lighter floor. She was a photographer. She needed more light and wanted more light. And so she had bought these like, you know, wooden floors that you can put down. And I'd never installed wooden floor in my life. I YouTubed it. I looked up how to do it. Didn't have the tool. Realized we didn't have the tool to do it. Built a substitute tool to do it out of spare pieces of wood, and you know, the tools that I had, drill and this and other things. It worked for a little while, and then it broke, and then I actually had to go get the actual tool that allows you to like hammer together wooden floors. And then while we were doing this, my wife was walking, and part of the wooden floor was exposed as we were putting it down, and she gets it jams it into her toe, goes into her toenail like Chinese, bamboo torture, like a huge splinter like that big. And she's in so much pain, and and she's like, we need to go to urgent care. I don't know how I'm gonna get this out. Like, we have to go, and they have to pull it out. And I was like, hold on, Leatherman. We didn't go to urgent care. I pulled that thing out. She was very attracted to me in that moment, because I saved the day, And it's like, what if I didn't have this? Oh, I'll drive you to urgent care. In her mind, it's like, anybody who was there would have driven me to urgent care. My sister would have driven me to urgent care. Why are you a valuable man? Because you can drive. Everybody can drive today. Not everybody can drive, but most people try and drive. Or everybody, mostly everybody can drive. Not everybody is a good driver, I will say that. And everybody is sometimes a bad driver, which is really scary. But that's why, like, get this. Like, if you don't think that there's a reason in your life, it's because you just haven't realized all the situations you could have been the hero if you had it. Yeah, I could have driven my Paulina, who is now my wife, but not at the time, my girlfriend, to urgent care, and they could have taken it out. But who's more attractive than that moment? The attractive guy who pulls it out at urgent care, or me, who drove you to urgent care? I mean, if we're talking just feelings, like, he's the savior, not me. He's the one with the skills to save you and treat your wound, not me. But that's not how it went down. It was me.